Hi, Matt. This is my group's video on the presentation of the two timelines assigned. So, at first, in the main events of 1984, we have five key moments for understanding the story and the characters in it. So, we have Winston's birth, Winston's mother, and Winston's evidence. Here we're showing Winston's childhood and rebellion against the party, and then we have Insect Foundation and the parties of the middle 60s. This is important because we are showing how did the party establish itself and how did they manage to erase the past, controlling all the people in Oceania and establishing themselves like an always existing entity. So at the end of this timeline, we have a quick overview analysis of each part of the book. So in part 1, we are introduced to our protagonists, Winston, Julia, and O'Brien, and situated in a dystopian society in the continent or one of the great powers in this world, Oceania, and how does this big brother type of government, the party, it controls all the people and thoughts in Oceania. Then we have in part 2, we are presented the relationship between Julia and Winston, how this love and actions are actually a type of conspiracy against the party. Also, we are shown that this conspiracy organization named the Brotherhood, in which it is said that O'Brien makes part of it and invites Julia and Winston to join them. Finally, in this part, we are presented to the Brotherhood book, in which we are shown how does this party govern in a very detailed way the world or this part of the world. The main concepts in this part of the book are dangers of totalitarianism, power and propaganda and indoctrination, and the limits of freedom for an individual in a repressive society. Finally, in part 3, we are shown how does the submission of the party begins in the Ministry of Truth and how did they torture Winston mentally and physically till he's finally break down and loves Big Brother. So the main events or the main concepts in this part are brainwashing, torture physically and mentally of a human, power of propaganda, and how a perception can be actually broken down and altered.
Bandersnatch timeline decisions made starts with Stefan being an indie game developer and having his mom died in a tragic train accident, which we will learn by the decisions made when he talks to his psychiatrist about his mother. He goes to Tuckersoft in his first day. He chooses to decline a job offer about his game Bandersnatch, in which he's working on, which is a free-to-play decision-making game in which you choose the ending. There is basically infinite alternate endings. We know Colin, another game developer, which has created most of games that Stefan loves. He's working on another game, and if we choose the wrong decision, the movie will loop, but this time the characters will have a knowledge about what will happen. So Stefan rejects the opportunity, then goes to his house, buys some books, rents some books about the author of the book Bandersnatch history, and we know that he is mentally insane. Now we go to the psychiatrist. We learn about his mother. He died in a train accident. Stefan blames his dad because he stuffed rabbit be in a safe room. He knows about this, but his dad thinks he doesn't. So he blames his dad because of his mother's death. We know Colin is also kind of crazy because after that he will just kill himself. Basically, we will just go to the psychiatrist, see Colin, follow Colin. We will take some drugs, learn that mirrors are used for time travel, and there are basically infinite timelines parallel to ours. So Colin doesn't mind like just jumping off a bridge and killing himself because he knows that he will quote unquote respawn in an alternate reality. Now we go to the psychiatrist. Stefan admits that he thinks he's being controlled, presumably by me, who is watching the movie. Now Stefan comes back home, he chooses not to drink some pills for mental sickness, and then he starts coding again. He can't concentrate and he starts yelling at the room if someone is watching. Eventually, we do accept that someone is watching. We click on the Netflix icon and that it just says that to Stefan, I'm watching you through Netflix, which is a 21st century streaming center where you can watch movies, etc. Stefan is found to be opening his father's safe where his stuffed rabbit escaped, and he just grabs it, places it under the bed. Time travels back to where his mother's death was, and goes with his mother to die alongside with her, because I presume that his life wasn't that great either, so he just doesn't mind dying with his mother. In fact, he is happy about that. His father apologizes because he knows that Stefan blames him because of his mother's death. He apologizes with his son's corpse, and he just dies, like he just falls asleep or something, and he just dies. He has no pulse, and the movie is over.
I'm going to talk about differences and similarities between 1984 and Bandersnatch. As a group, we chose 4 differences to talk about. First one, themes. 1984 is a dystopian novel that explores themes such as government control, totalitarianism, and propaganda. On the other hand, the movie explores themes such as free will, choices, and alternate realities. Setting. 1984 is set in a bleak, totalitarian society in which government controls citizens' life. The movie is set in the 1980s, and it follows a story of a young video game programmer. The plot. 1984 centers in Winston that rebels against his government and fell in love with Julia. The movie centers in the story of Stefan, that is a video game programmer, and he begins to question his own reality. Finally, the time period. 1984 was written in 1949 and is set in a future, a dystopian future. While the movie is set in the 1984, the same time the book was written. Now, similarities. Both explore the theme of control. In 1984, government controls all aspects of citizens' life. In the movie, the viewer controls choices made by the main character. Reality. Both explore the idea of reality and how it can be manipulated. In 1984, government controls reality through propaganda and censorship, while the movie viewer can choose alternate realities and outcomes for the story. Themes. Both explore themes such as loneliness, isolation, and a struggle of individuality against external control. In conclusion, overall, 1984 and Bandersnatch are different works. They share ideas and themes such as control, reality, and consequences.